Association. I, Dr. Manisha Acharya, welcome you all for today's panel discussion on future infra for communications, which is a part of 75 iConnect series event. To celebrate the Azadi Ki Amrit Mahotsav from 12th May to 12th August, Ministry of Science and Technology and Ministry of Earth Science, Government of India, conducting this series event in association with DSIR, CSIR, DBT to reach out to the industry. The purpose of is to first the partnership with industry in thematic focus areas, connecting the research with industry and fostering a strong Atmanirbhar Bharat. So ISWA, now I would like to something about the ISWA. ISWA was started a decade ago, that is in 2004, under the umbrella of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Today, it has grown to a membership base of 120 plus organizations that are into entrepreneurship development and incubation. Most of the academic institute incubators and some non-academic incubators also are the member of ISWA. ISWA is actively engaged with various state and central government agencies on various policies such as incubation, startups, innovation and CSR related policies. It also conducted several programs, capacity development programs and other events both for the incubators and startups. So today's panel discussion on future infrastructure for communication, which is very much need of the hour to know and for brainstorming on this. Digital communications infrastructure in our country is one of the key enablers of our country's economic growth and well-being of our people. So we have significant capabilities to both telecommunication and software technologies compared to the best of the world. We have developed so in a great manner in this field, but still we have need to do a lots of work. So however, not just India, but during around the world during this pandemic situation, the digital divide apparent a critical digital and what are the haves or haves not impacted the access to education, healthcare, jobs, finance, etc. Therefore, the priority of our policy makers to make the new technologies accessible and affordable to the common man in our country. That is very much required. The digital platforms should be accessible to all of the human, even the grassroots level. That is also very much required. Our country needs to particularly ensure that its communication infrastructure support the entire population whose demographic profiles were very widely across various indices such as literacy, economic condition, and urbanization. So that today's panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Prasad Menon, who is the Vice President of ISWA and CEO of SIBA, which is a technology business incubator supported by Department of Science and Technology, and they are based both in Goa and Mumbai. Mr. Prasad has over 2 decades of the corporate experience on renowned brands like Reliance, Nokia, etc. He is also an adjunct professor at Father Agnes Business School, University of Mumbai, where it is entrepreneurship, innovation, and service marketing, etc. So looking forward to a very fruitful and great session today. Now over to Mr. Prasad Menon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manisha, for the introduction and for setting up the theme of today. And once again, thanks to the Department of Science and Technology, the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Technology Development Board, and the various ministries for conducting this very important Industry Connect series. And like Dr. Manisha mentioned, this is part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. I'm very privileged to be moderating this session on behalf of ISBA. And so before I put the context once again, I would like to first introduce the panel members, the guests that we have today. And we could not have asked for more eminent panelists than what we have, and you'll come to know as I introduce them. I'll begin with introducing Commodore Dr. Jadumani Jaina, who is very much known in the industry circles. He is a former founding CEO of the Telecom Sector Skill Council. He has over 4 decades of very rich experience both in Indian Navy and telecom corporate sector, a very unique mix and especially in the field of R&D, indigenous development of electronics, communications, weapon systems, entrepreneurship, and skill development and project management. Dr. Jena has substantial contribution in the development of the Indian telecom ecosystem and has to his credit formation of 16 startups in the public-private partnership model. He has been the main architect for creation of 8 telecom centers of excellence. We call it the TCOE in this PPP mode for industry-led innovations. And these centers are located in the premium IITs, the IISc in Bangalore and IIM. And he has also managed these centers as its directors for over 8 years. He was also the founding CEO of Telecom Sector Skill Council that works towards adequate availability of skilled manpower to boost growth of telecom sector. And Dr. Jena has been instrumental in the formation of the Telecom Standards Development Society India to project Indian requirements and IPR in global bodies. Dr. Jena holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, and he has multiple 3 master's degree, one each in telecommunication, international business, and defense strategy. And to top it all, while he was doing all of this, he also managed to do a PhD from IIT Delhi on a very interesting around smartphone manufacturing ecosystem, which even today is being referred to by various industry partners. So we are very extremely delighted and honored to have Commodore Dr. Jena for this panel. As you saw in my introduction, that he has seen it all, been there, done that. So welcome, Commodore, to this panel. I would now introduce you to our next panelist, and he's Dr. Sri Rajiv Kumar Tyagi. He is currently holds a very unique designation as Deputy General Manager, Future Networks. And since the topic is on future, he's the right person for this panel. He has over 2 decades of rich experience in telecom operations and general management. He has worked. He also holds a degree from IIT Roorkee, masters from IIT Kanpur, and also has done a postgraduate diploma from IIM Lucknow. And he started his career with BSNL, and now holds this important portfolio of the Future Networks in the Department of Telecom. He also chairs some of the very key committees around 5G and common duct policy. And so we are very fortunate to have him here, because all these are part of the future communication infrastructure that we are trying to build. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of this panelist. I would first, Dr. Manisha already set the context as to why this particular topic is so important today, because I think the pandemic did also highlight how the world got, and not just India, but the world got divided into the digital haves and digital have-nots. Suddenly, access to certain very basic services like healthcare, education, created this divide in the society, and that's where I think we always spoke about the communication infrastructure and how well are we able to reach the grassroots levels. But I think the pandemic also showed both the preparedness of the nation, not just India, in other places as well, but also how the future should be. So for this, just setting this context, I would now like to invite Dr. Jena to give an overall perspective on what, according to him, is the current state of the communication infrastructure in the country, and with his decades of experience and being the main architect in some of these policies, how far have we come from the past, and how, according to him, does the future look like? So over to you, Dr. Jena, Commodore.
Thank you, Prasad. So I think I'll, since you have said to give the overview. I think before that, I'll thank ISBA for giving this opportunity to uh, the people who are attending this broadcast. I possibly hope they are the innovators or the startups, the faculties in institutes, or maybe some policymakers who are listening to this. So I'll give a little broad understanding of the communication infra because our topic is future communication infrastructure. So my talk will be limited to the infrastructure part of it, be it physical or digital. Now, but there may be the startups who are looking for opportunities. So that's why I'll discuss from my experience, whatever I have gone through being associated with the telecom sector, which are the opportunities which are lying, what are the problems which are lying, because every problem, every challenge, what you find in the society or around you is an opportunity for a startup. So since it is ISBA's function, I thought I'll share my experience and which I have felt that can be tackled by the startups or MSMEs. Now to come to what is this infrastructure provides. It provides the network functionality in 3 dimensions. It can be your ground network. It can be the wireless network in the air, and that includes communicating with the aircrafts and drones also. Or it can be the space, the satellites. Okay. So in each field, the infrastructure is growing day by day and in a very, very fast pace. These growths have been earlier happening in a bit of silos, in independent in each dimension. So there has been the growth which is happening in satellite, both for communication, navigation, surveillance, all the 3 dimensions. What do you call it? CNS nowadays, the terminology used for that. So all the 3 dimension, it is happening and then happening in a good pace. Similarly, in the air dimension, it is happening your wireless interconnect. What do you call it? The 3G, 4G, 5G, or 6G. So that dimension is also growing in leaps and bounds. And so is the communication with the aircraft, because there's a lot of time we are there in those aircraft in the aerospace. We want to communicate during that time. The off late is the drones which are coming. They need to communicate. They're the part of the infrastructure which can used for the communication. And you've got the host of ground network which has been maybe previously, or it is coming up, the landlines, the core networks, which are fiber or cable based. And earlier we have cables all around, and now the fibers are replacing them. All these networks in all the 3 dimensions are coming up. There are also different user segments. The user segments means there are commercial uses which is happening, and there are also military uses which is growing, and they're growing in their own silo. And a lot of technology which has been developed in military has been coming to the commercial, and now it is happening. Of course, the vice versa also is happening. And if you look at to solve all this communication, what are the infrastructure required? You've got both active and passive infrastructure. Under active infrastructure, you may have the softwares or the protocols, all those things. We will call them as a digital infra, or now applied the LTE, which is long-term evolution, or Wi-Fi, which is growing, your ORAN, this open radio access networks, which is going, and it is quite software intensive. Software radios are also coming. These are all in the software domain. same time the physical infra. You got the satellites, the ground receivers, the networks on the and the data centers, and the access networks. They're also growing in their own direction. There is another dimension which is close to the human being is the customer premises equipment. Be it a cell phone, you have seen how it has evolved so rapidly and how powerful each cell phone has become. You got the routers at home, Wi-Fi routers at home. Every day their functionality is increasing and they are becoming smarter and smarter. You got IoT sensors also. There are a lot of growth happening in the IoT sensors, which will integrate the physical world to the digital world. Then even if you got all these devices, handheld devices, the power chargers is also growing in a leap and bound. So with all this infrastructure going around and growing every aspect, it is growing in the future domain. On the human life need to also be seen. Basically, we need to see what is the problem it is solving for a better experience and how the data nowadays, which is, the broadband is the mainstay for the data, brings the use cases that is good for the human life. And also, along with this better experience and good use cases, there are also problems associated with it. We must be conscious about these problems. Sometimes the little bit of negligence may build a negative perception, so that may affect the growth substantially. We have seen that has happened while the nuclear energy grew, and we have also happened while this telecom sector was growing, and the aspects of how radiation from the towers is will affect the health. It may not be factual, but it creates a perception, and the perception need to be addressed while you are creating the infrastructure. So before I tell you what are the areas where it is growing, I'll say there are two guiding factors which should be kept in mind. Telecom is one of the national critical and essential infrastructure. It cuts across all the departments, all segments of social life. So it is not bound to any particular segment. And riding on this telecom sector is the data nowadays, and which is the new age oil. Like you dig oil and you dig crude and do the processing and find so many things coming out of it. Maybe petrol, maybe diesel, maybe paraffin, maybe plastics, maybe many things coming out. Similarly, the data, the data mine, which is this telecom sector is sitting on, has got a vast opportunity, and this has to be linked with some use case so that it does good to the humanity. Now coming to where the future growth is likely into the communication infrastructure. We have seen the overall what are the dimensions and what are the sectors, military or commercial, it is growing. So what is the future growth likely to be? Now there is going to be some convergence which will be happening between communication, navigation, and surveillance. And these protocols which will be developed in future will perhaps encompass all the three that already started. Platforms which will be used, which will be coming up in the future, will be multi-role platforms which will cover both all the three aspects of say, communication, navigation, and surveillance. You may be creating some platform for communication, but think about it, whether it can be also used for navigation or surveillance. Those things can also be integrated. That is how the hardware or the infrastructure will take a leap forward. The internet protocols. Now all these devices are gradually submerged into the internet protocol. The different suites will be coming, the internet protocol suites will be developed, which will integrate seamlessly all the three dimensions, space, air, and ground, and all the sectors, maybe military or the commercial uses. So this is in a software, this is our strength area. Perhaps our country's strength area, we can do a lot in this particular area and the growth can take place. Now, combination of satellite and Wi-Fi, it will take out, it is a big challenge for the conventional telecom growth, which is happening currently, the cellular telecom growth. So if everything is in the very near future, we'll have satellites which will be giving you a broadband connectivity at much higher rate than the ground coverage can give. Okay. And the combination of satellite and Wi-Fi will really pose a challenge to the existing fiber network, which is being spread with a lot of efforts. There's another area which is, and this particular satellite and Wi-Fi combination will be very good for the rural area, where especially the terrain is bad or hilly area and difficult to lay fiber, or which are disaster prone area. So in those cases, so this combination of satellite and Wi-Fi will be very, very useful, and the penetration will be least effective and least expensive. Now will also, that will be another area the growth will be taking place is indoor base stations. That means your on the tower top, whatever you have, now it is coming to your maybe the rooftop or inside your false ceiling or inside your room in the tabletop. So there will be a lot of growth will be happening in these indoor base stations and rooftop point-to-point transceivers. That means that you can put a rooftop and listen to the satellite or to another rooftop antenna, so that the communication can take place among them, and you staying at home or nearby will be able to communicate to the external world. There will be massive complete overall of the mobile tower designs. If you look at it as somehow we have grown very fast. We have at a time in the late or early time decade of this century, we have added 20 million subscribers in a month. It is like adding one European country in every month to the network, to this mobile network. So the growth has happened that time, and the towers, which are the infrastructures, which are passive infrastructures, which have been put up, had grown little unplanned way, and they challenge the aesthetics of the surrounding, and that there will be a lot of effort will be required to replace those, and it need to be replaced. Otherwise, this is one of the area which has created that perception that the towers are bad. You'll find some examples where the towers are there with the same looking, very sleek looking stainless steel towers with the base station below the underground, and people go and touch it and go. There is no absolute apprehension, but nobody wants to go near a tower which is looking ugly. So lot of effort can go in this thing. Lot of innovation can go in this particular area. And there will be also what the technology is enabling, this 5G with is a low latency, and it is enabling quite a lot of data to be packed into your bandwidth. But there has to be no use cases which will use this, and along with those use cases, we'll develop a lot of IoT sensors, Internet of Things, where system can talk to themselves through the internet protocols. is an area where a lot of growth will happen. And the last mile connectivity. And if you look at a rural skyline or a urban skyline, even if, and go to an urban village in maybe Delhi, in Bombay, and look at the skyline, how spoiled it is. There are cable crisscrossing everywhere, and which has caused even if death in some cities, and the municipalities coming and cutting them off and throwing it out. So that sort of thing is happening. So this is the area where it can be really a lot of improvement can happen. The startups can do a lot of work, or MSMEs can do a lot of work in this particular area, and change the skyline with aesthetic designs and devices. And to cover the rural area and uh, difficult terrain, as I said, the satellite will the satellite segment will grow very pretty fast. And we will also require a lot of low power devices and accessories, and which will be suiting our local conditions. And these are the best, these devices can be best developed by our ecosystem here within this country. Okay, nobody outside the country, even if you import the major devices, so this has to be developed here so that your need is met. You will also find a lot of ad hoc self-aligning network devices will come up. So because in when the 5G, where the number of antennas and or the base stations requirement will go multifold, because of its frequency spectrum and all. So that is the time there will be a need to have ad hoc self-aligning devices. The devices themselves will align. If one is going out, the other will come in automatically. So this area will also find a lot of future growth. For all this, to do all these things, we require a lot of R&D support. And now all the startups, or even if the faculties, you must have an like you are always looking for Series A, Series B financial investment. We should also require continuous intellectual investment. So unless that happens, this growth cannot catch up with the way the communication field is growing, with a very low self life of 2 to 3 years. And that can happen when the faculty in the colleges try to be a part of the startups ecosystem or be an equity holder. There are policy changes required, but that policy changes can be done, and the faculties can also be a equity holder in the startups. With this, I finished my initial introduction. Then we'll go as per the as we go, we'll discuss the problems. Okay.
Thank you so much, Commander. I think you have set the context beautifully, both in terms of what are the things that are very specific to our country, and what better way to introduce and ask and request Mr. Tyagi to take this forward, as in my introduction I mentioned that he's with the telecom ministry, looking at these initiatives and projects. Specifically, you mentioned about the skyline. I think if you talk about skyline, the next thing that comes into is the common duct policy. Unfortunately, he's the one who is chairing it. So I would love to hear from Mr. Tyagi on the future readiness of this communication infrastructure, and give us some insights on some of the planned initiatives and projects like the 5G network reach and the common duct policy. So, Mr. Tyagi, if you could just highlight on some of these initiatives and projects, and of course give your thoughts on what the Commodore Jain also mentioned. Please, over to you, Mr. Tyagi. I think you're on mute. Your speaker is off. I think we lost Mr. Tyagi. He'll probably log in again. So while he logs back, I think I just wanted to check. I think what you mentioned is very very specific to India is this whole perception around towers. Because when you talk about communication infrastructure, it's all these wires, these towers, this fiber layouts that has been built in a very aggressive way. Otherwise, you won't be able to add 20 million, connect 20 million people into the network that easily. Like you said, almost the size of one European country. So, what do you think, according to you? How can we change that? Because you definitely, if you look at the past and you talk about electrification of villages, right? So, so that itself would mean that you're grabbing some land from the farmers and putting some electric poles. You have then high tension wire going above your head. So those were also the challenges during electrification. I guess those same challenges are now coming for the mobile towers as well. So I'll do one thing. We'll go to this question for both of you. But since we are back, Mr. Tyagi is back back online. I would request Mr. Tyagi to address on the future readiness and some of the initiatives and projects that are planned. Over to you, Mr. Tyagi.
Okay, there was some problem, so
Yeah.
now it is okay. In the beginning, I thank ISBA and Mr. Prasad Menon for inviting me to this broadcast of DST, and in which there are august listeners from India and abroad. So this is a great honor for me, and I will be covering two topics in which I am dealing and I have dealt with recently, and they are very relevant and important topic as far as future infrastructure is concerned. Because 5G, it is going to be launched, as Honorable Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, he has set the deadline of 15th of August. So we hope that it is not further extended. And for that, we require baseline work. And for any technology to proliferate, the infrastructure which is supporting the technology, it has to be there. If infrastructure is not there, any future technology, it can't work. So in the case of 5G, it is more relevant. And recently, in the month of January, a committee was formed by Secretary Telecom, Department of Telecom, and I happened to be the chairman of that committee, and it had stakeholders, members from digital infrastructure provider associations, cellular operator association of India, other ministries, power ministry, then NDMC and other agencies were there. So we came up with a report, and it was released by our Secretary Telecom in the month of March. So I will just explain how what we have recommended in the report, and what 5G small cell, what type of entity it is. As you have seen that in the case of 3G, 4G, now 4G is working and 5G is about to come. There are cells which have size of some kilometers. But in the case of 5G, because the higher frequency will be used, which is essential to have higher bandwidth, higher throughput, and lower latency of 1 millisecond in the case of 5G. So higher frequency in the band of they are using around 26 gigahertz to 40, 50 gigahertz. So in India, it is going to be allocated a spectrum to be auctioned in the month of July itself. So when the frequency is higher, the size of antenna and its coverage, it becomes very less. It becomes hundreds of meters. It may be 50 meter, 100 meter, 200 meter. But in that area which that antenna will cover, the throughput or the bandwidth which will be there, that will be high, and it can cater to the demand of the new customers and new demand which is coming up. So and 5G small cell, one good thing about 5G small cell is that it can be installed on street infrastructure, because it has very less size, maybe around 5 kg or lesser size in the 5G the antenna case. And it can be installed, as I told, on the street infrastructure, which has you can say electric poles are there, street lights are there, signages are there, bus stops are there. So they are around, we have electric poles around 9 meters or so, and these antennas can be installed at a height of around 3 meter and more if it is available on the electric pole. Generally, it is available from 3 to 6 kilometer, 3 to 6 meters. So they can be quite useful, and this committee has recommended various things on these issues. The first one is that this TEC has come up with simplified assessment criteria for what may be the length of the lowest radiating part of the antenna from the ground, and what may be the distance of the main lobe of the beam to the public. And all these criteria were are there in the TEC specifications, but they are for the frequency up to 2 gigahertz only, and for the power up to 100 watt. But in the case of 5G, because the frequency is going to be around 30 gigahertz, 40 gigahertz, and in the case of 5G, because the dissipation of power, loss of power is too much in the environment, being a higher frequency, so higher wattage antennas will be required. But in that case also, the waveform which will be reaching to the public, it will have very less voltage, maybe around it cannot be harmful to the public. Then we recommended about that there are so many delays whenever any TSP applies for any antenna to be installed on electric poles, or any optical fiber laying work is to be done. So they need permission from different agencies, maybe NDMC, maybe CPWD, maybe NHI. So we recommended that it has to be, if in case of 5G, there will be in a very small area, there will be so many antennas. So it has to be done on a single time approval, not case by case. That will delay the case. And this is one good news. I was talking to my colleague in DOT. He is DDG National Broadband Mission. Now DOT has launched Gati Shakti Sanchar portal, which is integrated with state ROW portal, right of way portals. All states have developed ROW portal with the help, some developed it themselves, and some with the help of DDG, this National Broadband Mission. So all are integrated with Gati Shakti Sanchar portal. And anything which is applied by TSP, it can be seen by DOT people, by state people, and where is the delay. So DOT can come up, and the delay has been minimized to least possible. So that is a very good thing, because if the permission is delayed, naturally the expansion of the network, or the if new antennas are to be installed, that will be delayed. So this is very good thing in this case. Then in Kerala LSA, we have senior DDG Kerala LSA, and they, with the help of KSCB, Kerala State Electricity Board, they did a trial about the feasibility of having 5G small cell antennas on electric poles. So they have come up with a report, and in the case of KSCB, different operators were roped in, different TSPs were roped in, Airtel, Jio, and Vodafone. And the finding is that at a height of 3 meter or so, which is available in the electric poles, the the we can reach up to 250 meters of this. We can cover 250-meter area in that locality. So and they are very stable on that electric poles, because there is another committee about checking the stability of electric poles, whether they can sustain the weight of one antenna, two antenna, three antenna, 5G antenna on the electric post. So that is also coming up, and we are discussing with the lab at Bangalore. One lab is there, so they can verify whether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5G antennas can be installed on that electric poles. But because the 5G antennas, they are scarcity nowadays, it is very difficult to arrange them. It will take some time, and we will come with the report whether 1, 2, or 3 antennas can be installed on these electric poles. Sorry. So there are other recommendations on 5G, like 5G accessories, is antennas and power plant and other things are installed. There may be issue of security, there may be theft, because the accessories, power plant, batteries, and whatever rectifier is there, it can be installed at either on the pole itself, but it will create a stability issue, or it can be uh, kept on the ground and clamped with the pole, or it may be underground. But if it is on the ground and clamped with the pole, there may be some damage, may be done by some mischievous people. There may be theft also. So we have recommended that police, they can make it if some theft or some damage is done to this government property, because it is all things which are giving services to the public, they are government property, then they can take more strict view in that case. So that is one thing. And then these uh, in the case of installation of 5G small cells on building. So MOHUA people were also there, officers were also there in the committee, and while discussions were going on in the committee, they came up with the one addendum in the building rules of 2016, which caters to the how 5G small cells can be installed in the building, and the provision has to be made by building owners. So that also came up along with this report, and that is also cleared. Then there was some demand from telecom service providers that SACFA clearance, that is also a deterrence, and that delays the installation of 5G small cells on the pole and these building structures. So a committee was formed in the first quarter of this year, and they have come up with the report that up to 100 watt, if 100 watt radiative power is there, there won't be required any SACFA clearance, and they have to give just in writing some 2-3 points are there. So it will also facilitate in the this proliferation of 5G in the country. And then we recommended that there has to be some kind of the 5G small cells which are to be installed on the electric poles or electric lights. Aesthetics has to be same as in the environment. It cannot be very distinct, so that it comes in the it may be eye catching, and some people may notice that some 5G small cell antenna is there. And there is as you know, that people are very much apprehensive about the harmful effects of radiation on people, even though India has kept very strict norms for this radiation from antennas, and it is even whatever WHO has recommended, we are more strict in India about these norms. And there is no chance, because WHO is the world agency, and which has already studied how much harmful effects may be there from 5G radiations, and they have come up with some radiation which may not be harmful to the public, but we are more strict. So there is no I feel that there should not be any apprehension in the minds of the public that 5G, if it is very near to me, or it is on the building and I'm staying near that building, it may harm. There are very or almost no chances that harmful effects may be there. That is one thing. Then I am also chairing one committee on common duct, because in India at present there is no you can say uh, there is no duct policy that uh, there has to be duct. And this is the first time that India as a whole, with the help of all the ministries and all the stakeholders, they are coming up with a duct policy for India. And because this was very much necessary, and many agencies, many dignitaries, even Supreme Court has also pointed out, I came to know that this is unnecessary and undue expenditure is happening digging the road again and again in a year 2, 3, 4 times by different utilities. So this expenditure has to be avoided, and this what more this does is that road accident, if digging is always happening round the year, then that area becomes prone to accidents because of so much of garbage, so much of things may be there that it may hinder the movement of public. So to avoid this, a common duct has been is the solution which has been thought by the government, and it will be beneficial for the uh, utilities providers as well as to the public and uh, to the capital investment also. So it is this committee has been formed, and I am also part of it as a chairman, and various ministries are there. So we are deliberating on the issue how we can define the duct for India, different pathways in India, and we are thinking that there has to be 4 or 5 types of ducts, because expressways, national highways, state highways, they are all different, and in city it is to be different dimensions of the duct. So we will what we are thinking is that we will propose different type of ducts, and then there has to be branch ducts also. So 4 or 5 types of ducts will be we will be proposing, and the utilities which we are thinking that it can have, we electric power cable may be there, and then optical fiber cable will be there. Then we are thinking of water pipeline. We have in our committee we have people from Ministry of Water Resources. Then we have people from Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So gas pipeline we are also thinking, but it is we have kept it as optional because there may be some apprehension about the hazardous effect of if some leakage is there, and electric cable is also there. So this we are deliberating whether we can have both the utilities in the duct, and we are keeping some space for any future utility if it may come, and we are not aware because we will plan this duct for next 20 to 25 years. So in future, if some other utility comes which also required to be laid, buried under the ground, so this duct will have the space, and there won't be any need of digging the roads for that utility. So we are keeping all the points in our mind while designing this duct. And for this, the for designing for having duct in a place, because we can give the specification, but when it has to be thought of in a particular area, so topography of that area, geology of that area, then investigation of underground water has to be done, land use has to be done, then whatever is piping is there, traffic volume is there. So all these things will be investigated before planning a duct in some area by the people who are going to have this duct in that area. And we are also thinking, but the final call has to be taken by higher authorities, that there may be a single entity which will own all the ducts, maybe national highways, state highways, and express highways ducts. City ducts maybe with the local administration, local nagarpalika and all that. But these ducts may be owned by some entity, and that entity can then rent out or can share it with other different type of utilities, because there has to be one single ownership of these ducts, so that no problem is there while utilizing the ducts for by different utilities. So we are thinking about that also. And then in the common duct there has to be different type of facilities. Ventilation has to be there, lightning has to be there, power distribution will be there, firefighting equipment has to be there, then toxic air detection equipment has to be there, because there may be some time from the soil some toxic air may come. So if sensor is there, we can know in advance that there is some toxic gas there, so people won't enter into that duct. So that also is required. Alarming equipment, if some abnormal thing is happening, so there should be alarm to the control center. So all these things have to be the part of the that duct. So we are thinking about all these scenario, and we are trying to come up with the 4 or 5 different standards for different type of ducts for different scenarios. And uh, I forgot to tell about 5G, that there has to be some power requirement round the clock. If some 5G antenna is there, so it has to be supplied with power round the clock, 24 hours. For that, there will be a rectifier and UPS and battery will be there. That will be kept by the TSP. But grid supply of LT connection has to be there. And these LT connections, they have to be, because if there are so many 5G small cell antennas of a TSP in an area, and they are metered, and if for every each small cell antenna, different meter readings are taken and different bills are issued. So TSP will be engaged in clearing the dues of that will be a Herculean task. So we are proposing that on the basis of some calculations, some study, it can be thought of that for a single antenna there may be so much of charges. So in area there are 50 or 100, so accordingly the bill may be issued and it may be clear. It will help TSPs in not wasting their energies in these little things. That is that I forgot to tell. And in the case of this 5G, uh, because fiber may not be available everywhere, and vibration of these electric poles or street light poles or bus stops, it has to be provided to that point. It may not be possible to provide optical fiber to each and every 5G cell antenna point. So in that case, E and V band. E band is more useful, and E band can be used, and this frequency in the range of 60 to 80 gigahertz. This E band works in that band, and this may provide enough bandwidth for catering to the whatever traffic is coming to a 5G cell. So in the cases where the optical fiber cannot be laid for the time being, it can be covered by the E band microwave. So that is also we have proposed that it can be allocated to different TSPs for backhaul purposes. So that was also recommended in our this thing committee report. And we also propose that annual broadband readiness index report may be asked from all the states and union territories. So they will be aware about that. They have to develop. There has to be the broadband readiness index has to be improved, and there has to be competition amongst the states, and this will help in proper growth of digital communication 5G services in the country. So and this uh, and one thing is very important in the case of this 5G small cell, that there has to be some standard operating procedure for installation as well as carrying out maintenance of small cell equipment on the street furniture, because power people will be there. Then if TSP is allowed, TSP people will also go for maintenance. So there has to be proper coordination. Otherwise, if some person from power or some person from TSP goes there and he maintains his equipment, it may deteriorate the performance of the other utility equipment. So there has to be some standard operating procedure finalized between the both the agencies. So this is the other thing which we mentioned in our report. And this report on rollout of small cells for 5G networks by leveraging street furniture, this you can visit on to our website www.tec.gov.in, and there you can find the all the recommendations of the report on this website. So I think this is all from my side. Over to
Thank you.
Prasad Menon.
Thank you, Mr. Tyagi. I think it's amazing, and it's so good to see so many new initiatives and also things that addressed some of the challenges that Comrade Jain had mentioned with regards to, for example, even the skyline issue, and the common duct policy should be able to solve it, and also the fact that you're taking into account how does these small towers on not towers antennas on the electric poles look like, so the aesthetics are kept in mind. So I want to now pick up on something that both of you said, because I want to look at because we are talking about future. While we are talking about communication, there is also the need for the energy requirement of the nation. So there is a huge push towards multiple ways of ensuring that we are able to meet. And now the way you have lined it, Mr. Tyagi, that now these 5G network will also need more energy. Then we also have another thing called the entire EV, electric vehicles, right? And I know that there is a project around installing EV charging in electric poles as well. So when you look at the infrastructure needs of the country going forward, there are these multiple agencies or multiple agendas that need to be addressed. So how do we all bring this together? Because Kamparu Jaina mentioned about how satellite and Wi-Fi on one hand would be a great way for India in those terrains where laying fibers may not be feasible and may not be economically feasible and may not be also not possible because of the kind of remoteness of these areas are. So my question is, and I'll start with you, Gaurav, because you've addressed this, right? And these challenges that's posed on ground, right? Because that's where the last mile fiberization or last mile reach. How do you see? Because we spoke about also even perception, because there are challenges of how do we ensure that the people cooperate at a municipal level as well, at a village level, at a panchayat level as well. So I've asked 2-3 questions in one question, but if you could elaborate on what are your thoughts on that. I'll start with you, Komarojan, and then over to you, Mr. Tag.
Okay. So now I think you were very rightly brought out. Okay, if electric poles are to be used, then you got electric vehicles also. You got telecom equipment also being also used together. See, the first challenge is meeting of minds. Okay, we have attempted these particular things to talk to the electric department, to the authorities, higher authorities also we have spoken. The problem is meeting of minds of the people at the ground level. So then each one must appreciate the functioning of the other one and the do's and don'ts for the other departments. Like in the electrical pole, you got electrical department is also the electricity department, distribution department is involved. You got telecom department, both private sector is involved, and it's not only in the telecom. It has been a fairly good outsource model. We'll find that equipment providers are also involved. The operators are also involved. And now when we bring in electric vehicle, the charging has to be done. It requires a larger power requirement also. So all the three put together need to be serviced from that particular point. Yes, perhaps the solution can be look for solar and power, solar and wind. See, this energy to be harnessed on the same pole itself. So, when the solar is in the daytime, it is there. Nighttime, the wind is perhaps more effective. So, this combination in the same pole can uh, provide the energy required for the telecom part of it. But as for the vehicle charging is required, I think the grid power need to be there, because that requires a lot of faster charging and a lot more energy at a particular time. So the grid power, whenever grid power is there, that can be sufficed by the grid for the charging of the electric vehicles, and this telecom equipment, whatever is being planned, which is go underground or above ground, should also cater for this. So this sort of things need to be looked into together. So this, when this MSMEs or small this thing, startups are looking at these problems, they should look at holistically and think in perhaps little differently how they can converge different technologies for the same uses. So that is one thing. And there is a good thing which has happened is a Gati Shakti, which is bring a lot of other departments together for decision making. There's a good platform which the government has started. So perhaps that will also, that can be leveraged to accelerate these facilities.
Yeah, Mr. Tyagi, what is your, have you seen, because you said that you're dealing with multiple different departments, and now that the KSEB pilot that is being done for 5G. So how do you see it when you look at that use case going forward in terms of energy needs, in terms of even perception, in terms of challenges of implementation at a ground level?
I want to say that government is very coming up with different schemes like Gati Shakti program of government is there. So in this program, with this program, all the ministry department, they are coming together. And because different departments are dealing with different entities, like power is dealing with power, and Ministry of Road Transport, they are dealing with vehicle, but electric vehicle needs power also. So there has to be meeting of mind. But now the government is has understood this, and they have come up with this Gati Shakti program. And I told you that in 2019 National Broadband Mission, this came into existence, and at that time fiberization of tower was around 30%. All the towers which were there in the country, and they have planned that within 5 years it has to be reached to 70%. So 70% by 2024, towers will be fiberized, and remaining will be on E-band and maybe satellite or whatever different type of structures, different type of technologies are there. So you can see that it is a meeting of mind, and I have observed in my committee meetings also, because I have executives officers from Power Ministry, Central Electricity Authority, NDMC, Water Ministry also. Now, because due to Gati Shakti, secretaries of different departments, they are meeting on at regular intervals, and they are tackling these type of problems which were earlier not thought of, that every department was running maybe in silos, so that the problem could not be solved in a least possible time. But now this is happening, and this is very good thing. And as you can see that in 2G, 3G, India was far behind the world, and 4G and 5G, it is catching up. It is not far behind. And 6G, what our honorable minister has said, that in 6G we have to be in the lead. So already high level forum committees, and even in telecom engineering center, one DDG, Deputy Director General at 6G, the portfolio has been already been created. 6G is about to may come in a decade, by the 2030 or so. But 8 years before that, already a Deputy Director General, Joint Secretary level post has been created in the department, and they are seeing how India cannot be far behind in this 6G journey, because you know that whatever growth in digital communication is there, this have very good impact on our GDP. So whether it is broadband or whether it is 5G or 6G, whatever is going that will happen, that will be enhance our this scenario as economic power. So government is very thinking in a very uh, positive and very structured way in tackling these problems. So as you have said that electric vehicles have to come. So the electric vehicles electric power ministry department and Ministry of Road Transport department, if they will sit together, they can know how many these points will be required and how many will be required in future. And that type of planning, if it is in advance, that will help us, help the country a lot, and meeting the demand and satisfying the public as a whole, and for the advancement of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's great to hear that when it comes to 6G, we don't want to do the catching up game. We want to be a little bit ahead of the curve, and steps are being taken to prepare us for it. You're right. I think it may be 5 years, 7 years, 8 years down the line. And what Commodore mentioned very well, that there's a shelf life of any technology in the telecom sector is around 3 to 4 years, which means that you need to keep developing it. So I'm glad to hear that. Now, when we talk about, because see, you're chairing committees around 5G, and there is also now the 6G. Somebody is appointed in that role. How do we see in terms of future readiness? Because one is the challenge of rolling this out, but also to ensure that while the active part, and again, picking up on what Commodore mentioned, while the active part of the communication is developing fast, when we talk about software development, protocol development, blockchain technology, metaverse, the passive part also needs to catch up with it, right? And so this duality, right? How do we see? So is that shelf life being thought of in such a way that we can build on this infrastructure, the electric poles and the antennas put in is ready for the future as well? So when we do the 6G rollout, it doesn't mean that everything that we did on the 5G becomes redundant, and we have to do another big capital investment over and above it. So what are your thoughts on this? I can ask Mr. Commodore to first comment, and then I'll go to Mr. Tyagi.
Okay. Thank you, Prasad. So this is a very interesting question. Say, when I joined the telecom sector after my 3 decades of journey in Navy in 2006-7, so that is the time it was a sunshine sector. Okay, and we have been discussing all these issues. Okay, the technology will coming, growth will take place. All these issues we have been talking, and we got into this R&D with the IITs and all, so that we develop the entrepreneurs to catch up with the technology. That time also we thought, okay, we will be there, we will not lose out 4G. Well, 3G was yet to come. We said we will not lose out 4G and we'll be there. Okay, we started that. And the history repeated again for the 5G also, the same thing happened. Okay. And we have now 5G is going to cross and go to 6G, and we are still not ready. What is lacking then? Is the lacking the ecosystem, which also need to come up together or beforehand. So that is what is lacking. Let me give you one example. When the Soviet Union broke down, so that is the time, but the Indian defense was quite dependent on this. And in the Navy especially, we took a place, okay, we will bring up our Indian manufacturers, that is small scale industries or public sector industries, and we will do it here. Even if it takes time, even if it is a little bit of substandard, we have to learn by iterations. So we'll do this. The user handholds the R&D guys or the manufacturers. Okay, you'll use this and you develop it here. We did that. Believe me, the small scale industries and medium scale industries came up with fantastic outcome. And we could take from earlier, what was every year we were developing some 40 crore worth of equipment. 3-4 years, we went to 200 crores every year, new equipments getting developed. And the entire naval requirement was met by these MSMEs. The same MSMEs went abroad, challenged the original equipment manufacturer, and bid them in the bids, commercial bids, and they got the orders from abroad. So the same thing need to happen here. If we want 5G has to be there, develop use cases. Okay, why I should use, bring 5G technology when there is no 5G use cases? So, somebody, if it is equipment manufacturer driven pressure, okay, you take 5G, your growth, GDP growth will be say 10% or 1%, 2% for every 10% of broadband growth. Or these are all hypotheses. Have we measured that? So that has not happened. So we need to either develop the ecosystem with our own guys. And our own guys are the MSME sector, startup sector, which has come up now. There are a lot of facilities, a lot of respect being given to the startup system, which is coming up now. This is the sector. If it grows, will be always catching up, and you can be at some time ahead of the technology. So unless that is being done, we'll be again talking. Okay, when 7G comes, we'll be there, or 6G comes, we'll be there. So this talk will go on. So that catching up will happen only when we give a lot of thrust on your local R&D, local small manufacturers, or MSMEs or startups, and also academic R&D, which will integrate that into the startup ecosystem. So that when it happens, we'll be able to catch up.
Thank you, Commodore. Mr. Tyagi, what's your views on this?
Actually, I am chairing three working groups for 5G use cases in different verticals. One is smart water and sewage and sanitation. The other one is transport, and the third one is health. And there are 9 such type of working groups constituted in DOT. So what is our mandate is that we have to study what type of use cases of where 5G is used are available around the world, and how we can fine tune them for the requirement of India. So we are working on that, and because the technology has to be properly utilized. If it is developed and only we are using it for voice call or maybe for a little bit of data, then it is not proper utilization of the technology. Because 5G we have 3 type of use cases. Enhanced mobile broadband communication is there. Then the massive type of machine type of communication is there, and third one is ultra reliable low latency communications. So in the case of MMTC, massive mobile type communication, the IoT sensors, because IoT sensors will be required in an area maybe in large number. So 5G is there to cater that demand, because in 5G cells of different small size may be there. So in case of this thing, IoT, Internet of Things, which is the buzzword nowadays, and it is being used. It is going to be used in a large way around the world, because everything has to be sensed, and only then you can take a decision. So if you know what is going to happen around you, then you can take faster decisions, and for that IoT and then 5G is required. And there are some cases for ultra low latency, because in 5G it is 1 millisecond. And in India, you know, so many accidents, car accidents and vehicle accidents, they are happening. And if 5G is used, because it is latency is low, and intelligent transport system is developed based on this, and if you can avoid accidents, that will be great help for the country. And because every accident, it incurs cost for the, in terms of lives, in terms of money also, because so much of our infrastructure is wasted. And so 5G has to be utilized in the transport system. So in water also, 5G can be used for monitoring the data, the water wastage. Smart water management can be done by 5G. And wherever any leakage is there, or wherever any contamination is there, it can be well known beforehand, and action can be taken for rectification of that. So it is all the technology which is going to provide all that, and different type of use cases we are developing, so that we can fully harness the capabilities of 5G. And then 6G will come maybe in 2030 or so, and this will have far superior capabilities than 5G, because it will be using higher frequency than 5G. We are using 20-30 gigahertz and then the 6G will use more, and in that case it is expected that latency can be 1 microsecond. 1 microsecond, if latency is there, so it will help us in so many things, remote surgery or such type. There may not be any mistake if remote surgery is done even in 5G, but in 6G it will be enhanced. Then 6G use cases may be developed. But first we have to 5G is going to come up in India, and we are working on that, so that use cases which are relevant to India in different verticals, they can be analyzed, and there can be studied, and something can be in the form of report can be made, and it can be distributed, it can be sent to all the departments, and they can accordingly take action on the basis of that.
So I think
let me add a little bit, Prasad, on this.
Yes, please.
What Mr. Tyagi said just now. See, when the 5G was introduced, I mean, the people started talking, the foreign MNCs started talking it. They said, oh, it will be a driverless car. We can have driverless car and all those things. So in India, we got so much of population who do not have that requirement. But now just see, imagine just now what he said, very important. From the driverless, we are looking for the application which is accident free. That happens. We don't require, we want 5G to avoid accident, not to make it a driverless. So this is what is the customization to your own country, own need. So these are the use cases which need to be developed by us. Nobody else can do this. They can bring technology. Use cases has to be developed by our mind, looking at the problems what we face and the challenges we face and how to solve it with the technology. So this is a bright example that how driverless not required, we require accidentless. Okay, so that's the thing use case I was talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's perfect, because our infrastructure development should be for use cases for our country. And definitely, like you said, Commander, the startup ecosystem, the R&Ds can, use this. Like if you talk about, like what Mr. Tyagi mentioned, if you talk about IoT sensors, there are a lot of startups that are using IoTs for solving problems, whether it's in the agriculture sector, whether it's in the sector of sanitation, healthcare. So if you talk about simple things like drip irrigation, remote using drones, for example, how does enhanced communication network allow you to reach to reach areas where you're not able to reach. So this thing what you mentioned, that being part of that working group, and it's great that we are looking at it. And like what Commander mentioned very clearly, that while this communication infrastructure is hyped in the nations, developed nations abroad, those are not our benchmarks. Our benchmarks are indeed our user cases, our use case, and our user groups. Now, just I want to bring something around the part around standardization. I think, Commodore, you have been part of this telecom standardization initiatives. Now, when it comes to all this, and I think I brought it up yesterday when we were discussing, that how do you ensure that the standardization of all these protocols, whatever it may be, whether it is the IoT or whether it is the other, the three different ways that Mr. Tyagi mentioned, is there a dependency on some of the global standards or some of the standards set up by the more developed or the nation? Not, I would not use the word developed nations, but the nations where initially in the game, that we have to depend on them, or are we setting up our own standards which are indigenous and which are not relying anymore on the global standards?
Okay, very good question. See, almost a decade back, when I visited one of the ITU meeting, I found that in the ITU meeting, people from other countries like China and or Sweden, who manufacture this telecom equipment, are attending in hordes. And in India, there are only one or two guys. So that is the trigger or motivation for me to work for creating this Telecom Standard Development Society of India. So, I mean, maybe I took some help of some NRIs and all these things to discuss, deliberated, and finally we achieved it. It took some time, 3-4 years, but we created that organization. So there are things which is required for standardization. One is the requirement. What is your requirement? Now in telecom, you have to be bound by global standards. If you feel that you can make your own standards and create equipment, and sorry, even if China has failed and will also fail, we should not tread that path. Whatever you make it to the global standard, because the manufacturing, everything is so, I mean, changing so fast. The chip density is changing so fast. You can only manufacture at global scale, because that is what will bring down the cost. And even if the fabrication units are shrinking to a few numbers, which makes high density chipsets. So that means you should give your requirement at the stage when the world is looking for requirements to create the standard. Okay, it is all set by global bodies, and you should be a part of those global bodies, and you should be there when they different stages of making the standards. First, they accumulate what is the requirements. Okay, based on those requirements, they said, okay, these are the requirements which are emerging from different countries. Let the manufacturer, let the R&D organizations develop equipment or technology around these requirements or problem areas, necessities. Okay, then the manufacturers create, the R&D happens, then they go back to the forum, global forum, say, okay, I have done this, I have done this, I have done this. So then they agree to a common thing, okay, this is better than this, let's adopt to that. Then later on comes the final equipment manufacturing based on those agreements which has happened. Then once the equipments have been manufactured and the protocols have been developed, so then the companies who have done this, they give their blood and sweat to push that into the global standard. Okay, similar thing has to happen in this country. Our R&D has to grow. Our manufacturers who are there has to develop this equipment and then take it to the prototype stage, push those standards into the global forum. Unless we do that, we will never be able to catch up with the global standards. And there the value is the IPR. In the global standards, you do any work and create, even if you create your use cases, okay, and it finds place, you got your own IPR, it finds place there, and where the equipment is made. So you get an IPR, you got your return. There is a saying, whatever is there in India, I mean, all challenges, all difficulties are there. That is there also in the world. So many issues what we face, if we solve, we are solving global problems. So and to the IPR generation, get into those standardization forums, get into your IP registration, patent global patents, so that you are there, even if you have not developed the equipment, even if the R&D has been done and you have developed something, is there and it pays for it. That vicious cycle has to go. And we have created, there is an organization called TSDSI, Telecom Standard Development Society of India, which because of lack of enough adequate R&D and adequate industrial research, so we are not able to push many things through that because there is nothing to take it to the global platform. But at least we are able to project our requirements. So all the global manufacturers know what is our problem. So when any global standard comes or equipments are manufactured to the global standard, at least our need is attended to. That we are in that particular stage, and some of the academic research which has happened in the few of IITs have gone to those as an IPR, have gone to the global standards also. This is an area where a lot of research and a lot of effort can happen from this startup community also. Develop your use cases and take it, because bolte jo nahi varate wo nahi marate. That means whatever is not there in India is not there in the world. So, and whatever you find, challenges you find here in India, solve it and take it to the global forum. Don't say it. You got to apply. We have created a platform, TSDSI. Take it through them. They will take it to the global forum, and that is how we'll build this.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Tyagi, since you have, what has been your experience? Because when you're looking at this entire rollout, so there might be many places where we have done some indigenous standards we built, which are specific to our need, but can be used global use cases. So that's what Komodo Jena was mentioned, and the other way around, where we have to follow the global standards because those are the, otherwise you don't get access to many of the equipments that we need for this rollout. What are your thoughts on that?
You know that R&D expenditures, they are not immediately rewarding, and that requires a lot of money. But now in India, there is incentive for startups. There is incentive for products which are manufactured in India, in all government purchases and all that. So this will boost manufacturing in India. Startups will come up, and they may do some study on the use cases which are useful for India, and they may come up with some standard with the help of government agencies. But now the country is passing through that phase where it can become a leader. As you know that earlier hardware was the main requirement for communication switches and technologies, but now everything is software oriented. So you know that TCS has made a consortium with CDOT, and 4G and 5G equipment, they are being developed in India, and BSNL is going to use 4G and later on 5G, which is indigenously developed. So this was not happening earlier. So because of this, fortunately, because of it, it is tending, it is going towards softwareization type of thing. So India is, it is a software power. TCS, Wipro, Infosys, so many companies, they are have made name in the world. So now it is right time that India in the communication field, because of its software capabilities, it can take a lead, and that's why our honorable ministers and other honorable dignitaries, they are thinking that India can take a lead. Now it is India is in a position to take a lead in 6G and other things. And as for the standardization are backbone of any type of development in any field. And India has not been developing any standards for quite a long time now in the field of communication. All the standard 3GPP standards, or any standard developed by IEEE or IEC, these standard developed by those agents, those organizations, they are being used in India. But it may be possible that they may not be properly 900% suitable for India, but no tweaking could be done, because there was no thinking on that aspect. But if they are made in India and they are specific to India, that will be great for India and for the growth of communication in India. As you know that in the standardization field, as Dr. Commodore Jena, he has told that TSDSI has come up, and they developed in last years, they developed 5G I standard, which is just a tweaking of whatever 5G standard has been developed by 3GPP. And by tweaking the technique, what they have done is they have increased the range of their radiation, so that it may be suitable for Indian rural population, because that is not the case in all over the world. But for India, that technology has been tweaked to cater to the rural demand of India, and that was that standard developed by TSDSA was taken up to ITU. It was accepted there now, but now it has come up as a standard in the 3GPP release 17. So this is the things are moving in the right direction, and if we are able to develop standards on our own, we will be greatly benefited, because the standard developed by other countries may not be fully when if fully maybe used in a optimal, maybe fully optimal for our country. But they have to be used because we don't have our own standard. So and for this, government is coming up with expenditure on R&D, startups, manufacturing in India type of these uh, innovative ways. And in future, I hope that India will be a country who will be developing standards of their own. And as Dr. Prof. Jaina, he told that India's presence in ITU was meager. So there are. I am part of TEC, so I know that from China and from other countries, 40, 50, 100 people join ITU meetings. But in India, there is very less attendance in those meetings. So rightly, we cannot put up our view. And if we are able to put up our view like it is happening now, now India is also in ITU meetings. Also, we are sending our people, and a lot of work is done in the all the national working group in DOT, which are just mapped to the study group in ITUT, and a lot of work on the questions which are there in the study group. It is being done in TC with the help of industry, because everybody has to be taken on the board. Government cannot do all things themselves. Industrialists, startup, patent holder, which have who have experience of developing standards in India, maybe in any field. So they are all taken into board, and with the consultation with all of them, we are contributing to ITU, and our presence in ITU and standardization efforts in ITU may get benefited in future.
Thank you, Mr. I think the what
Just to add, government nowadays is helping. I think that helping to subsidize the fees for patenting, or they have made it free. I think for the government.
Yes.
So any startup or any innovator, whatever you are innovating, please patent it. First time, if you are first there, you are patented, then you whatever happens in future, perhaps it will be repay back to you. See, just imagine the case when for generations we have been using haldi and neem in India. Haldi for everything, including as a medicine or as a food item or everything you use haldi, and also neem. But it is being patented by somebody from US and Canada. Okay, that's because nobody thought of it. So please, in this forum, we'll stress that whatever you find, which is in innovation and in Indian context, be it small, be it big, patent it. And this is now the government is supporting this.
Yeah, I think couple of things on the standardization. I think since your thesis and your work on PhD was around smartphone manufacturing, if I'm not mistaken, every smartphone has got at least, I don't know how many hundred something patents of multiple components. So which means that you are bound by those, right? And I think Mr. Tyagi also mentioned very well that there are certain standards which would not be optimal for India, but the ones if we develop for India, they may be optimal for many parts of the world. And in that context, Kamaraj Jaina, because you have led the Telecom Center of Excellence, what has been the mandate for them? Because when you look forward, these are the hubs where this kind of R&D work should happen, where we have optimal, standards for India, which get patented. We have an IPR, and we can present it to the world, like you said, in multiple, whether it's ITU or any other forums where it is relevant.
Okay. So what you want to know is basically, if I've understood the questions, we have created the telecom centers of excellence. So why we have created, and whether it met its objective or something like that.
No, I wanted to know because see what Mr. Tyagi mentioned about R&D and startups.
Okay.
Device, right? So the TCOA is one of the centers where
Yeah, when we created TCOE, see what has happened. Telecom is in a very security sensitive issue also. There was a fight between defense department and also telecom department, whether we we increase this shareholding, that is more than the foreign participation more than 50%. Can you give it? Now it is 100%. So that time it was less than it was in less than 50%, 49%. So that is the time the necessity came, because telecom, everything happens on the telecom network. The security is in a big problem. So then we should have our independent research units here which will be working on this. So on that, it was a promise that we will be creating some R&D facilities. Okay, I having worked in an DRDO for developing some sonars, I knew what the strength is there. The strength is in our IITs. Even if the DRDO, in the DRDO, for certain problem so solving, we go to the IITs. We say, okay, solve this problem. Solve this problem. Then DRDO takes further and integrate to the equipment and all. Okay. So that model, we say, why not we use directly the IITs and fund them, let them do the research. And since the research is being done by the, say, PhD, PhD or masters, or even if the undergrads, the students, so some of them can convert into entrepreneurs, okay, and take their idea or whatever innovation they have done, they take it further and patent it, and then also use it in this environment. So that is how it started. We created in a public-private partnership mode one one institute, that is one of the IITs, supported by one of the operators and Department of Telecom. It's a tripartite agreement which was signed, and 8 centers of excellence were opened. That IIM Ahmedabad was for customer services and all those things, management, technology management. All for that it was open. The rest all are supposed to be technology. Now what happened? We did create a lot of patents. I think some 80 odd. There are blocking patents. Or there are small patents. You can have, like, some mobile phone has got 1,000 odd patents will be there in a making a mobile phone. But there will be few blocking patents. Then see, if you do not have those patents, or if the patent holder, he can block the entire manufacturing this thing. So with some of the patents what we created were of that caliber also. So we created a lot of patents and we started patenting from this. So that gives a little push to the patent creation in these academic institutes. But what happened? We created patents. We attended to this ITU meetings, and that also supplemented the TSDSI, because you have to take to the global platform something. So these are the technologies which are projected to the global in the global forum. That is one, that the 5GI is one such patent which came out from one of the centers there. So, but the problem was we didn't have the startups who will take it forward, because the operators have funded those projects. Operators said that, okay, you have developed this technology, you have developed this product, come and bring it and put it in my network, because I don't have any technological support I cannot give you, so that I model into a proper working equipment and put it. So we found the gap there, where the manufacturing gap was there. And then we did try something, but I mean, I'll give one a case study. We created one Wi-Fi equipment, transceiver, which was earlier being procured at the cost of 75,000 rupees per piece. It was done by IIT Bombay with the support of Tata. So when that innovation came, we said, okay, we'll make it in India. We publicized it also. So then the manufacturer who was manufacturing, he was supplying at 75,000. He brought it down to 25,000 rupees. Okay. So now, when we did our math, we said, okay, if Tata can give an order for 5,000 units, so we will make it also at 16,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Then the same manufacturer, after 1 month, when this news spread, they brought it down to 7,500 rupees a piece. It's killed. It is killed.
Yeah.
But you see, we cannot do that.
Yeah.
It was killed there.
Yeah.
But look at the advantages what we got. We got that the same item which the country was purchasing for 75,000, now available to the operator for 7,500. We have saved that much of money. So that is the opportunity cost which that guy was taking, because we didn't have anything. We didn't have the capability. We have not built the capability. He is charging anything he wants. Okay. So that is the advantage. Even if sometimes you make it, and this was done by a startup. Okay. A startup later on shifted to something else, but he did this. We did develop the capability, and then you see the country overall gain. The startup might not have gained, but the country overall.
Okay.
So these are the advantages.
Great, great. I think that's a fantastic case study and that's very interesting to know. Indeed, now, something about the blocking patents. Now, let me talk about the blocking components. Now, with our ambitious 5G rollout and the deadlines that we have in place, what are some of the blocking components? Because you see what the chip shortage did to many of the industry, where the technology is ready, but the manufacturing is not caught up because of the pandemic, supply chain issues, right? So, Mr. Tyagi, what do you see are we for the entire rollout of 5G, whether it is the antennas, whether it's the infrastructure that we are going to do in the coming years, are there any blocking components which you feel would put the brake or slow down? Or there's a risk, let's put it that way. I will not call it delay or something, but there's a risk.
It was supposed to be infrastructure itself, but timely action has been taken, and there are so many studies with infrastructure which is already street furniture and all that, and DSP, and everybody is engaged. And whatever manufacturing type of things there may be, whatever shortage may be there, that may be for all over the world.
Yeah.
It may not be for India itself. And as you have come across, we have come across that even in purchase of vehicles, there was some chip that was not being manufactured during the COVID time, and there was so much of delay for each all the models, all the branded of vehicles, because of that chip which was being manufactured in South Asian countries or a single component can block the whole bus. So,
exactly.
but fortunately, I don't see, because it was the COVID time has passed, and we don't see that any such type of blockages may be there. But at the same time, we have to be prepared. If the equipment comes, if the spectrum is allocated, everything is there. But infrastructure has to be there. It has to be there in time, so that and whatever government sanction, government permissions have to be there. They have to be on time, and for that I have already told. Gati Shakti Sanchar portal is already there. If some TSP applies for any permission from any agency for optical fiber laying, aerial for optical fiber laying is also permitted, and for any type of permission, it can be viewed by all the authorities in DOT and state governments, and timely action is being taken up. So earlier, the requisitions which were being cleared in 3-4 months, now they are getting cleared in a week or 10 days. So it is happening. I am witnessing that for last so many months. So we are going in the right direction, and let us hope that nothing blocks our progress towards 5G.
Very good. Very good. Good to know that. I think good to know that there is at least. I use the example of the chip as how one small component could actually bring the entire, not just in India, but worldwide to stand still. Factories were stopped, shifts were stopped because of that. So good to know that. Now I have a quick question also on the leadership position. With what we have done, we spoke about 6G, but with what we have already developed, whether it is on satellite, Wi-Fi, 4G or 5G, is there anything that you feel right now we have a leadership position and it is ready for the world? If you take, for example, I'm using an analogy there of our UPI, the MPCI system, right? Our digital payment gateway. That is an envy of most of the countries in the world because what we have developed, right? So there we have something. So is there anything from our communication infra that we have built that we feel? And when we talk about the world, the world is not just developed nations. There's a huge market in South Asia, a huge market in Africa, in Central America, pockets of it. Do you see anywhere anything that way?
Uh, uh, as I have told you that 4G and 5G equipment, they are being indigenously developed by India, by TCS in consortium with CDOT and IITs. So they can be used anywhere, and there will be many takers because it will be indigenous technology and maybe relatively cheaper to than to the technology developed elsewhere. So India is getting the leadership position, and elsewhere also. As far as standardization work is concerned, this time in ITU, because the ITU phase is for 4 years. One phase is 4 years where different questions and different topics are taken up, and this time maximum number of Indians are there in the vice chair and chair position. Even senior DDG TEC, he is the chairman of a study group 11 in ITUT. So India is making its presence felt in the world. If you are in the leading position there, you can influence whatever technological development India is going to witness. So and vice chair, the 3 4 vice chairs are also there in I2T. Earlier it was not, they used to be there, but now India is, because India is having the confidence, India is having the backing up, India is having the zeal also, and every people from every industry, from government, everybody is very keen to showcase that India can lead the world in the communication field.
Very good. What are your thoughts, Commodore?
Yeah, okay. So the two, three things that comes to my mind. See, the very model of doing business in India, the telecom business. We have developed this SLAs.
Yeah.
It is so brilliant that the best man does the best the job. See, when you got jobs are getting outsourced and all, unless you have those SLAs ready, unless SLAs are foolproof, you will not get a quality product. I think this is one thing unique which you have developed in India. Okay, the I mean, earlier we are trying to do with ITI and all. We are making the telephone and all. Everything you are trying to make by ITI, starting from the telephone to the screws, it was trying to make. Like one Sunil Mittal in one of the this thing he mentioned. He said, I learned a lot from ITI when I visited before I started my telecom journey. So the learning was how to do not what ITI is doing. Okay, they are trying to do everything themselves, even if they are good or bad at it. So he said that is where I decentralized it, created this outsource model, which is linked with the beautiful SLAs. So these SLAs will ensure that, I mean, your outcome, everybody is involved, a part of the system, and the outcome is good. SLA is service level agreements. Okay, so that is one gift from the telecom sector. Another is the CDOT has also made the GPON equipment, which is being the technology has been transferred to the many industries who are manufacturing, and Tejas is one of them, are exporting these products. So that is one area where you can take leadership. Software, of course, we have. And during this pandemic, one thing we have shown is how education can go on unhindered. Okay, so there are a lot of things which have been developed on education, how education can go on without any hindrance, even if the pandemic is going on. And those technologies need to be integrated and need to go to the world. They're ready for the world market. I think these are the few areas we have done quite wonderfully well and which is to the global standards.
Very good. Thank you. I think, well, this combined with what Mr. Tyagi mentioned about the indigenously, we are making this 4G and 5G infrastructure, the hardware also in India. I think this definitely brings us, and the fact that we were glad to hear about the ITU participation now, what Commodore Jena said, mentioned about his experience, decades ago, where you had only one or two participants, to a place where we are being chair and vice chair of some of the committees. That definitely shows how far we have come as a nation and what is our standing. So that's really very encouraging. Now we have 10 minutes left. I also want you to each one of you to say, because a lot of people who are listening in are from academia. There are maybe incubators, startups, aspiring entrepreneurs. So when we talk about this, the field of communication, and I just take, like, for example, in academia right now, I don't know what your experience have been. If you take a simple engineering college and there are streams of mechanical, electrical, electronics and telecommunication, computer science and IT, what has been happening in India is that IT and computer science has got a huge demand, whereas mechanical, electrical, and electronics and telecommunications are considered as a little bit of the legacy or the from the old group. The new group is computer science, AI, IT. But clearly, that's not the case. Now, the whole discussion of today is talking about the importance of telecommunications for everything else, whether it is CS or IT or IoT or AI or ML. So, what is the message to this audience with regards to how the future holds for them, whether it is students, entrepreneurs, people in the academia? I know it's a loaded question, but definitely your perspective, because you both are also looking into the future, will help guide them better. I'll start with you, Mr. Tyagi, and then give Commander Jena the floor. Mr. Tyagi, please.
My understanding is that nowadays students, they opt for computer science, IT, as AI and all that, and they get suitable jobs also. But the people, the students who join mechanical, civil, uh, they are not so fortunate, because they sometimes they don't get jobs from campus. And this is happening because everything in every sector, communication and ICT is going into every product, from it may be mechanical type of thing like cars, maybe the civil type of thing like houses or buildings. Everywhere you can see that penetration of ICT is there. And ICT sector, it is changing very fast, like 4G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, then 6G. And people are eager to see the experience of from new technologies. So whatever changes takes place in civil and mechanical, that is very slow, and people are not ready or not waiting to get that experience. They are more keen to get experience from what digital world is going to provide them. So and whatever technologies are there in mechanical and civil, for that the industrialist or the company owner, they also may not require too much of manpower, because it is a very it is going on for quite a long time, not so much of technological innovation, or not because vehicle engine is there, and it may change somehow. The petrol engine is there, diesel engine is there, and even in that also electric vehicles are coming. And what nowadays, when you go to buy a car, whatever the main attraction is the interiors, how your AQI index is diminishing. You can see on the panel in your car that you have no pollution inside the car, and so many things are there. They are coming through technology or in the field of ICT only. So my take is that it is inevitable nobody can change, because this is the field where maximum innovation, maximum changes are taking place, and this is becoming more and more part of our life. Earlier it may be 10%, now 30% or 40% or 50% of our life is centered around ICT. Mobile is one of them, which is taking 3, 4, 5 or more hours from everybody through social media, Twitter, WhatsApp, and all that. So my take is that, and industry and the colleges also, they have to fine tune according to that, so that if somebody is interested in mechanical or civil or chemical, that type of branch, and they want to work, they have to have ample opportunity, and accordingly intake in those institutes may be fine tuned. And it has been already done. We have more intake in the field of IT, computer, electronics, and newer technology, blockchain technology is coming, AI, ML, so many technologies are coming. Now we may later on may have a branch with the name of only blockchain technology, because these are the area where innovations and large opportunities are going to happen for the industry, for the public, or for everybody. So nobody is can do anything about it, and everybody has to make wise choice where he has to go and where he has the bright future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dagi. How about Commodore?
Let me give a simple solution. Okay, yes, what do they told is a problem, but there is a simple solution to this. You change in every college that dean placement, okay, to dean entrepreneurship. Okay, just this switch, you switch this, you will have tremendous impact, because now we'll have people who are job hunters to job givers. Okay, so once you do that, job hunters to job givers, all the department will be required to solve a real life problem. This IT and ICT becomes a tool, but there you got many other things, be it mechanical, be it civil, many other things will be, many other core engineering will be required. So okay, so now which is happening, the entrepreneurship mindset, once it gets into the boy's head, he will be a job giver. He will look for job giver, and he will require mechanical engineer. He will require other engineers together, even if he's an IT, or a vice versa. The collaboration between the disciplines will happen. So that is one thing I'll suggest is a simple solution. And I'll tell you one thing, one American guy, when that Lehman Brothers, this thing happened, that the collapse took place, he came, he said, the people who are responsible for it, like, are the IT engineers from India. Okay. And the Indian IT engineers are also responsible for bad roads in India, because everybody goes to IT, and the civil engineer also goes to the IT. Okay. So I think there's ample opportunity for everybody in every field. And once you come to the real life scenario, IT is a support system. It is not the main system where we are now rushing. Okay, so that's my advice. Change that dean placement to dean entrepreneurship.
That's very, very creative and very simple, straightforward thing indeed to get that mindset. And I thank you very much. I think we are just towards the last 2 minutes. I would like to, there's so much to summarize, but one thing that is very evident from both your discussion and your thoughts is that India is right now at a leadership position compared to what it was in the past. India is also seen and prepared itself for the challenges that lay ahead, like Mr. Tyagi mentioned, with regards to having multiple ministries and multiple stakeholders together when you discuss about whether it is common duct or whether it is 5G, how you talk to whether it's electricity pole suppliers or whether it is the oil and gas ministry, whether it is water. So that's really encouraging that we look at our past and we know what the future needs, and we are preparing the policies. The government is working on it. That is very, very, very encouraging. And I think, Komarajana, I can see clearly you're an advocate of entrepreneurship and startups, and the startup ecosystem will be, and the incubators are watching will be so glad to see how you're pushing that agenda of encouraging startups to make use of this direction of what we are building in the communication infrastructure, and support the government like Mr. Tyagi is leading to develop these use cases, to develop the patents, which becomes standards for the world as well. And of course, first to start with solving all the challenges and problems in India. I like what Mr. Tyagi mentioned about how 5G rollout is not just next step, but it is also to help solve some of the problems associated with India, whether it is about accidents, because we know India as a country has got a very dismal rate of deaths due to accidents in vehicles. So if that can be avoided, if we are able to save lives because of this, technology and the infrastructure we're building, that's absolutely amazing. With that thought, thank you very much, gentlemen. And it has been an absolute pleasure and great learning for me. And with a lot of optimism, a lot of positivity, we want to end this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jana.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. We sign off?
Yes, please.
Thank you.